So let's set the record straight, because there's headlines out here that Denton ISD is on a hiring freeze. That's not the case, is it?
So what we are on a hiring freeze with those positions that are outside of the classroom, right? If it's a position that's been supporting kids outside of the classroom and providing additional tutoring and things that we think are important, we've had to freeze that for lack of funding. We are hiring classroom teachers, and we are replacing our teachers that leave, and there aren't any of our employees that are losing their jobs, but we are on a what I call really a freeze, a stall, a pause, so to speak, until we have the financial means to be able to put those resources back in place.
And then I was looking at the meeting from Tuesday. So currently 78 positions that are either already vacant or they're teachers that are retiring, that sort of thing. Those positions will be filled.
The 78 positions that we talked about on Tuesday night will not be filled because they're outside of the classroom. They are support places, they're interventionists, they're instructional coaches, they're things that we think are really important that we really need to continue doing. But when we didn't get the funding we needed for the 23-24 school year or the 24-25 school year, we couldn't continue them.
What are you guys hiring for then?
We're classroom teachers, our instructional assistants that help inside the classroom, anything that really is directly in the classroom, we're going to continue to hire those. And we will also look at the things that are outside the classroom that are essential and necessary. Our special needs kids, the therapists that they need, the diagnosticians, the things that they need. Everyone will probably be picking up additional workload, but the things that are not directly into the classroom, we've got to take a pause and look to see if we can continue to do it. And that's not something we want to do. We have those resources in there for a reason. Our kids need them. Our state just didn't value the ability to put money into our schools so that we could continue those programs.
And that's what I was going to ask you next. Why are you guys having to do this?
So frankly, when you had a $34 billion plus surplus budget at the state level and not one penny of that came to public schools, we are stuck. We've had 18% inflation since 2019. We're funding on 2019 levels. Our providers pass inflationary costs on to us: fuel, electricity, supplies, materials, paper goods, ink, copiers, printers, you name it, all the different things. Those vendors pass those costs on to us. Without additional funding, that eats into personnel. And so as those costs go up, we have to keep the lights on. So that means we have less people to do the job that we know our kids need.
And then I know last year in 2023, the big story out of Denton ISD was how many students were coming here, how big the district was growing to. I know that there's a new high school in the works, some new elementary schools and so on. One of those elementary schools will be opening next year. One is going on a pause, is that correct?
Correct. So we are opening our 25th elementary school this fall. Martinez Elementary School in the town of Little Elm is continuing to open. We're continuing to grow students. We're opening that school without adding additional personnel to the school district. Our teachers will have larger class sizes, and we're having to move things around and take vacant units to staff that school. Fred Hill Elementary School, which is also in the town of Little Elm, we're delaying that for a year. We can't afford to open it. We can't afford to staff it. And frankly, we really need it because we have the space. But our classrooms will just be a little more crowded at a couple of places for another year until hopefully we get the resources to be able to staff it.
So in terms of staffing, you guys are having to reallocate positions at this point. Is that what's going on?
That's correct. We're having to reallocate some positions within the school system, and we're having to increase our class sizes. Our teachers will see more students. We're trying to protect the integrity of the classroom as best we can. At the same time, you have to reduce your people if that's all you have left, because we're cutting everything out of the classroom first, and the teachers are the last units that are on that discussion. And all of our neighboring districts are going through the same thing, right? You're seeing districts that are closing schools. You're seeing districts that are reducing personnel. You're seeing districts that are changing schedules. And for us, we're doing everything we can to try to protect the sanctity of the classroom and for our classroom teachers. And really, districts are in two boats, right? We're all in the same boat for no funding since 2019. But if you're growing students, you are getting some revenue because you are adding students, and that's how we receive our revenue. But if you're not growing students or you're losing students like some of our neighboring districts are, you're getting it both ways, right? You're getting no increased revenue, no increased funding, and you're not growing in students. For us, we are growing students. That does help us in revenue, but with that growth comes the need for teachers and the need for educators. And as we came out of closure, we did not really over adjust for our classroom ratios. We knew kids needed to have smaller classroom sizes to get caught up. We knew they needed tutors. We knew they needed interventionists. We knew they needed specialists to help them. And so we left those in place. Now that we're moving into the 24-5 school year, we're not going to be able to continue with those supportive resources, and that's what's going away. So our families are going to see a difference in services that we're providing with our struggling learners simply because of lack of financial resources.
So your district, Denton ISD, and districts across the state are having to get creative with how to continue like the standard of excellence that Texas schools have,
right,
without having the money to back it.
Right. So you bring up a good point about what we're all having to do, right? We're all funded on a 2019 funding level. We know how much costs have gone up. Our families feel that. We feel it with them. So we're all having to look to do things that we know are not helpful for kids that we've put in place simply because our state legislature decided to keep the money in Austin instead of give it to the taxpayers that have already paid for it. Our taxpayers have already paid this money. It's in the form of sales tax. It's in the form of property tax. It's in the form of the oil and gas tax. That's our citizens have already paid those taxes and paid that money. Our kids are sitting here in classrooms needing the resources to learn, and that money's sitting in Austin waiting on allocation. And we don't have it. It's not okay.
And we talked about the short term, so going into this next school year, but long term, what are the implications of this?
So when you think about moving forward for 25-26, the next legislative session starts in January of 25. We will start having conversations about what do the reductions look like in 25-26 without any additional funding. And that will include looking at our smallest schools and seeing if we need to consolidate. Looking at all of our programs to see if we can continue to have those at the different grade levels that we want. Our community expects us to have really first-class activities and opportunities for our students. We have stellar band programs and choir programs and orchestra programs. We really work hard to have neighborhood schools where parents can walk their kids to school and kids can ride their bikes, and it's safe, and it's why people move here. Those resources may or may not be available to continue to offer all of those things that our families have come to expect from us if there's not additional funding in the next legislative session. And our families need to know this is what's on the discussion for what the reductions might be for 25-26 as we go forward. And frankly, most of the school districts, some of the school districts in our area are to that point this year. I think if you look around the area, you'll see some that have had to consolidate schools, some that are reducing programs, some that are working through those opportunities. They're a year ahead of us on that. And frankly, it's because we're growing in students. If we weren't growing in students, we would have been having those discussions a year earlier.
I have two more questions for you. The first one, for the parents of this district who are watching this, what do you want their takeaway to be?
I want our parents to know that our teachers in our classrooms care about their kids. They're going to make sure that they learn. But our parents need to know and understand that all of the things that we're providing their kids that we think are important, all of that will be up for discussion if we don't get additional revenue and additional funding moving forward. And they need to make sure that they are aware of who's making those decisions. Our elected trustees only get so much money per kid, and that's determined by our state legislature during every session. And it has not been increased since 2019. We think today we need about $1,100 more per student to meet 2019 funding levels. So if you think about that, that's 5 years worth of $1,000 a kid that we need to keep up with where we were, prior to closure.
And then what message would you have for the legislators?
I just think our legislature needs to value what they have put in place. We have an amazing school system in our state. People are moving here at an astronomical rate. It's the fastest growing state in the country. It's the largest job creation state in the country. That's for a reason. It's because of our K-12 school system that people want to be here. There's an incredible workforce that's developed here. Companies want to come here and be a part of that because we're putting out good products. People from all over the country want to be in Texas. And I think our state legislatures need to value the work that our K-12 schools and teachers have done and edify that, make people feel good about that. And then let's talk about how we can improve it and how we can make it better. But let's also value what we've done so far, because people aren't coming here in droves for a system that's broken. They're coming here in droves for systems that are doing what they need to for kids. And communities like ours are destination districts where people want to be. And it's evident by the home sales and the housing market and the growth. And I think our legislators need to know and recognize that we are a big draw for families. And they need to recognize that that's important to our state's economy. I have almost 4,000 employees in our school district. When we start reducing employees in our school district, that's cutting jobs. I mean, what legislature wants to have jobs cut on their watch? I mean, how much resource would our district get if we were a private company that was going to bring 4,000 jobs to North Texas? That's what the public school system here is in Denton ISD. Multiply that times Louisville and Plano and Little Elm and Eagle Mountain, Saginaw and Northwest, all around the Metroplex. Those jobs, those dollars they give to public ed, it's more than just teaching kids. Those dollars go right back into our local community, right back into restaurants and car dealerships and banks and mortgages and homes, and it's economy. And I think when you invest in your public schools, you invest in your future, and you also invest in your economy. And I think when you think about the number of jobs in public education that will be reduced over the next 24 months, we're going to see an impact on our economy from those jobs not being here anymore.
Are you optimistic?
I'm optimistic because I'm a glass half full person. I believe the future is in our classrooms today. I think our teachers prepare our kids, and I think our kids are ready to make the changes necessary to continue it going. I think that we have a group of individuals across the state who aren't connected to public schools, who don't know what goes on in our schools, who we've got to figure out how to make sure they know what's happening so that the narrative that gets told is a real narrative and not one that's fabricated on small instances and anomalies from across the country.